3 titles in 10 years. Jackie Stewart amazed the Formula One world with the speed at which he arrived in the category, and not only that. Since the beginning, the driver showed competitiveness against names such as Graham Hill, Jim Clark, and Jochen Rindt. In addition to the titles, the Scot is also remembered for his fight for better safety conditions on the track, precisely at a time when death was a constant presence in motorsport. So many triumphs made Stewart one of the greatest drivers F1 has ever seen on the track. John Young Stewart was born in Milton, Scotland on July 11, 1939. Jackie, the son of a family that owned a car dealership, was a failure in school, dropping out at 16. Stewart's difficulty had an explanation. Only in 1980 did the driver discover he suffered from severe dyslexia, a disorder that severely hinders learning and reading. When he was still 13, the Scot won a shooting competition and soon became part of the Scottish team. Competing in other countries, Jackie won several important championships and almost joined the team for the 1960 Olympics. Working in his father's garage, the future driver met Barry Filer, an amateur driver who invited Stewart to test some cars at Alton Park. Filer's attention was caught by his performance, leading him to lend Jackie a Marcos Xylon GT and an Aston Martin DB4 GT to race. Thanks to this help, the driver won 4 races in '61 and began to pave his professional path. The following year, the Scot tested a Jaguar E-Type again at Alton Park, and his times were equal to those of Roy Salvadori, a Le Mans-winning F1 driver. In 1962, there were 2 victories, and in '63 another 14, mostly for the legendary Écurie Ikasu team. Also in '62, the driver married his childhood girlfriend, Helen McGregor, with whom he would eventually have 2 children. In '64, the driver renewed his contract with Écurie, and his performance caught the attention of Ken Tyrrell, who was then the head of a Cooper team in Formula Junior. Tyrrell took advantage of a test with Bruce McLaren and invited Stewart to drive the lead driver's T72 BMC. As soon as Jackie started clocking faster times than his, McLaren returned to the car and began setting even better times. Stewart was then sent back to the track, and he once again set the best times. Impressed by the feat, Tyrrell hired the young Scot. Now racing in British Formula 3, Jackie was dominant from start to finish. In his debut, the driver won with a 44-second gap to second place, and during the year, the rookie only failed to win twice. The overwhelming performance immediately caught F1's attention. Days after the first race, the Cooper team offered him a position for '64, but Jackie declined in favor of gaining more experience in Formula 3. After some tests in Jaguar and Ferrari sports cars, the Scot had the opportunity to test a Lotus F1 car. The result left team boss Colin Chapman and driver Jim Clark extremely impressed, prompting Chapman to offer the driver a spot on the Lotus team. Jackie again declined the offer, but decided to take a spot in Formula 2 with the team. One step closer to Formula 1, Stewart continued to impress. In the first race at Clermont-Ferrand, he finished in second place, behind only Denny Hume. At the end of the year, the Scot finally made his debut in the top category, replacing Jim Clark. In the non-championship Rand Grand Prix, Stewart qualified first, but the car broke down at the start of the first heat. In the second heat, the driver had no problems and won, also setting the fastest lap. In 1965, and already well-known, Jackie signed with the BRM team in partnership with Graham Hill. In his first GP as an official F1 driver, the Scot finished the South African race in 6th place. In the end, that turned out to be his worst result of the year, as in the following races, his presence on the podium was recurrent. After securing several second places, Stewart achieved his first victory at the Italian GP after defeating his teammate Hill. Adding to his victory at Monza were 3 second places, a 3rd, a 5th, and a 6th, which earned Stewart 33 points and 3rd place in the championship. In addition to the official races, Jackie also won the BRDC International Trophy, a non-championship round. The BRM duo also raced at Le Mans that year, this time with Rover's revolutionary turbine car. 1966 started well for Jackie. The driver won the Tasman Series, leaving both Hill and Clark behind. After winning the Monaco GP, BRM began using 3-liter 8-16 engines in their cars. Unreliable, the engines let Stewart down and the results didn't come. At the Belgian GP in particular, the Scot almost lost his life in an accident due to the wet track. After spinning off and crashing on the first lap, Jackie was trapped in the wreckage of his BRM in a ditch. To make things worse, fuel was leaking from the tank and pouring directly onto the Scot. After being rescued by 2 other drivers, Stewart was put in an old ambulance and taken to the hospital. On the way, the rescue vehicle got lost, and the transport took longer than it should have. The near tragedy shaped the driver's thinking about safety in the category, which at the time was almost non-existent. Besides F1, Jackie almost won the Indianapolis 500 in his debut. After leading the race with a one-lap advantage, his Lola T90 broke down with 8 laps to go. In August, Jackie won the 12 Hours of Surfer's Paradise, paired with Andrew Buchanan, and months earlier, a test for the 24 Hours of Le Mans was conducted, but the driver didn't race. The following year, 1967, problems with BRM continued and Jackie wasn't able to achieve much. With a second place in Belgium, a third in France, and many retirements, Stewart finished the year in 9th place with 10 points. Success was once again found outside F1. After finishing second in the Tasman Series, the driver achieved 3 podium finishes in Formula 2 and a second place in the 6 Hours of Brands Hatch. At Indianapolis, the Scot retired with just over 30 laps to go due to an engine problem. Things finally started to change in '68. Ken Tyrrell fully entered Formula 1 and called Stewart to be his driver at Matra. Dedicating more time to the category, Jackie won 3 races and scored 36 points, finishing the year in second place. Equipped with the efficient Ford Cosworth DFV, Stewart and Matra were almost unbeatable in '69. After winning 6 races and scoring points in 2 others, Jackie was the undisputed champion that year. To this day, Jackie remains the only driver to be a world champion with a car built in France. The immense success did not repeat itself in 1970. With Matra insisting on using its own V12, Tyrrell decided to form his own team, taking Stewart with him. Racing with a March, and then with an original Tyrrell model, Jackie managed 1 victory and 3 other podiums in a championship marked by the tragic loss of Jochen Rindt. That year, Stewart was partnered with Frenchman François Sévère, a young driver of great talent who gradually became his protege. Outside F1, the Scot raced in the Can-Am Series with the Chaparral 2J, won at the Crystal Palace Formula 2 round, and was considered for the 24 Hours of Le Mans, but the deal to pair with Steve McQueen fell through. With further development, Tyrrell's car proved unbeatable again in '71. After a second place in South Africa with the 001, Jackie won 6 races with the 003 model, scoring 62 points. Combined with his partner's points, Tyrrell won its first Constructors' Championship, and Stewart became a 2-time world champion. In America, the driver raced a full Can-Am season with a Lola from Carl Haas. Competing race by race with Danny Hume and Peter Revson, Stewart won 2 races and finished the year in 3rd place. The task of competing in both championships was not easy, and he felt the consequences for his health. After traveling over 186 times between Europe and the United States, Jackie began suffering from gastritis and other symptoms that plagued him throughout 1972. Despite the problems, Stewart remained competitive in Formula 1, winning 4 races and finishing second, behind only Emerson Fittipaldi. Not racing in Can-Am, the Scot decided to compete in the European Touring Championship, where he finished second at Paul Ricard. That year, the driver was also honored with the Order of the British Empire, OBE. In the following year, 1973, Stewart decided to retire at the end of the season due to the frenetic pace of his career. Keeping the decision secret, the driver made 2 podiums in the first 2 races and won 5 more with the 006 model. At the Italian GP, Jackie secured his 3rd championship with a 4th place finish, which didn't change his plans. In the final race of the season at Watkins Glen, his teammate Sévère suffered a brutal accident during practice and died. That was the final straw. Stewart immediately announced his retirement and did not compete in what would have been his 100th F1 race. Along with other drivers like Rindt, the Scot called for better track conditions, faster rescues, and improved medical care after his crash in Belgium. By early 1973, Stewart's wife had counted 57 losses among her husband's friends and teammates who had died in accidents. Besides mandatory seatbelts and full-face helmets, Jackie also fought for the implementation of track doctors, protective barriers between the pit lane and the main straight larger runoff areas, among other safety measures. After F1, Stewart became a TV commentator for American channels ABC and NBC from 1971 to 1986. His coverage was quite varied, ranging from Formula 1, NASCAR, and Indy to Olympic sports like luge and Olympic equestrian. After leaving the network, Jackie commented for Australian TV, where he stayed for only 4 years. In the late 80s, his son Paul founded Paul Stewart Racing, a team dedicated to British Formula 3. After gaining experience, expanding, and winning 12 titles, the team focused on Formula 1. With Jackie as team principal, Stewart Grand Prix competed from 1997 to 1999, when they won the European GP, scored 36 points, and finished 4th in the championship. During the year, the team was sold to Ford, which turned it into Jaguar. Nowadays, Jackie lives with his wife in the village of Ellsborough, England. Stewart is the only surviving F1 champion of the 1960s. If you enjoyed the video and want more information about Formula One, IndyCar, and other motorsports, subscribe to the channel. Questions, suggestions, or tips are always welcome. Feel free to leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching.